Thank you very much, Al. Hey, guys, that was just terrific. You know, I like Fred's last comment. Why don't we roll back the trade war? I think that's a very good place to start. But anyway, I'd like to just give my warm welcome to all our viewers and participants from around the world again. I've been asked together with Heiwai and also Mike Spence to just give a quick wrap up to our conference for the day. Now, closing a conference like this is an unenviable task. How can anyone do justice to what we have heard from so many distinguished speakers and panelists? To quote one, Asia Global Dialogue 2022 has been important, illuminating, and inspiring. Andrew Shang reminded us that when elephants fight, the grass gets trampled. Well, speaking from the viewpoint of the grass, we've gone eyeball to eyeball with elephants that have been trampling all over the global economy. I tell you, we see their footprints in the ascendancy of ideology and security over economics, the pain of inflation and high interest rates, the weaponization of finance and technology, the cost to the global economy of pressures to decouple, and in the slow progress, unfortunately, in the COP27 in Egypt. I think Mike Spence also said it right on. I think, Mike, you really nailed it when you indicated that we're looking at nothing less than a regime change in the governance of the world economy. Nothing less but a regime change. But given the way it's been going, that may be no bad thing, to be honest. The prefix re, has featured often in our dialogue. Re-examine, rethink, reimagine, reform. There's been plenty of that going on today. We have heard, for example, that Asia is innovating in amazing ways with financial solutions for SMEs previously left out of the formal banking system. Our regulators and central banks are clearly focused on financial inclusion, using digital technology and data sharing platforms. I'm confident that with such innovations, global trade will continue to lift millions out of poverty. We have also heard about the much needed shift in thinking on how to price risk, develop new metrics for growth, and even how to define the word green. Meanwhile, the G20 has just signed onto a financial framework that will help the world transition to low carbon energy. That's really good news. But the really good news is it is the work of a committee whose co-chairs are from China and the United States. I think this is really a great example of what could happen when China and the United States work together to move things forward, that are of their mutual interest, but really good for the rest of the world. I can go on and on, but the greatest takeaway in my mind has been the exhilaration of once more engaging in person with so many friends and international participants during this morning's session at Hong Kong U's historic Lock You Hall. Andrew used the words connecting, energizing, empowering. Really, this describes well both the AGD and Hong Kong. I couldn't agree more. And this is truly where we convene great minds to look at global issues from Asian perspectives and to share that with our partners from the rest of the world. We are deeply grateful to HSBC for their generous sponsorship of AGD 2022 and to Vice Chancellor Zhang Zhang for Hong Kong U support. I congratulate you, Heiwai, and your colleagues at the AsiaGlobal Institute for putting together a cutting-edge program. And special thanks to Yvonne Mack and the AGI events team for all their hard work in making the Asian Global Dialogue 2022 happen seamlessly in person and online. Finally, there would be no dialogue without the participation of all of you and to our speakers. Our global audience. I look forward to welcoming you all in person in the AGD 2023. So good night, good afternoon, good morning. And I think I'm now handed back over to you, Heiwai, for maybe a little more detailed description of some of the learnings of the day. You have to unmute, Heiwai.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes, great. Well, the last part of the session, I have some technical issue, but now it's resolved. I was going to say thank you very much, Victor, for your proposal in the summer. I don't know if you remember that, when we still had quite a lot of hotel quarantine restrictions, AGI and my colleagues were not so sure whether this will go through. And I think your wise decision was correct, that we should go on. And today is a huge success for AGI. As Al has said earlier, everyone was energetic. Everyone was very happy to see old friends and meet new friends. Congratulations, Victor, for your wise decision and continue to push AGI forward. Let me say a few things about what I learned today. I feel like I'm still a student, after so many years in grad school and after so many years of being a professor. First, I really believe that, globalization is still going on. It is not a per se, and if anything, it has taken a different form, okay? So Victor mentioned there are many Re's, R-E. One of them is about rethinking about globalization. And I think globalization has become more digital, as the previous panel has discussed. It has become more about services, maybe less about merchandise, trade. It has become more resilient, which is very important, right? We tend to think that diversification of supply chains will reduce efficiency, but perhaps, supply chains have become too much about just in time, not enough about just in case. With more resilient global supply chains and therefore global economy, I think there will be opportunities for small, medium enterprises and also for smaller economies to participate in global trade in a more resilient and more peaceful manner. After talking about globalization, I want to zoom in to the two largest economies. In today's morning session, we learned a lot about what's going on in the US as well as in China. Both countries, the largest two economies, have gone through some economic challenges, right? So we know that the US has very high inflation right now. It is expected to have recession in the near future. China still under zero COVID policies. Obviously, people want to spend, but they couldn't find ways to spend. But these are all short-term problems, and everyone in the conference believes that both countries in the end will be able to get through these short-term economic challenges. And more importantly, I think there are important areas over which these two largest economies can find room to collaborate. In this evening session, the first online session, we have heard that in areas about green financing, in setting up green investment standards, even in biotech IP standards, both countries have been collaborating, signing agreements and joining multilateral agreements. These are good news, and this will continue to be the areas where we will see large economies collaborating. And this will fit to Fred Bernstein's agenda that maybe the two countries should think more about functional decoupling and focus on finding areas where they can collaborate, especially on economic issues. Last but not least, before I turn to Mike, it is great that AGD has happened in Hong Kong. It is great that AGI has contributed Asia Global Dialogue as part of a big event November that we had the Monetary Authority Summit in which many leading investment bankers and financial elites came to Tang. Rugby 7, the most important sports event for Hong Kong, has also taken place a few weeks ago. And we are very proud that we contributed our annual flagship program, annual flagship conference, Asia Global Dialogue, to help Hong Kong to relaunch as a global international city. I like Laura Cha's comments in the sense that I think Hong Kong should continue to play the role as a connector. We are good at connecting, as what Andrew Sheng has said in the morning. Food is a very important part of Hong Kong people's life. People come here to eat, but more importantly, over meals, they talk and exchange ideas. Hong Kong will continue to play the role to connect ideas to actions, to connect investment to projects. And I think, we can play a very important role, not only as a financial hub, but also as an idea exchange hub. And AGI will continue to play a very important role on the second part of Hong Kong being an international city. Thank you very much. I look forward to another Asia Global Dialogue next year. Turn to you, Mike. Mike, this is your time to unmute.
Yep, you need to unmute.
Here we go. There I am. I loved listening to this last discussion, because it had everything that I associate with the value of the Asia Global Dialogue. So I thought that Fred and Jen and James and Andre basically, did two things. One, they eliminated bad ideas, right? I mean, this notion that, in the short run, the renminbi is going to be a reserve currency is an idea that, this is just good education, a clear explanation of why that's not in the cards. And then even more important than that, on a kind of different level, you have the kinds of things that Fred was talking about, the shifting of both the mindset and the policies, which is very important. And the only thing I have to add to that is I think the pandemic has been a disaster in this respect. And it's just a joy that we're coming out of it, because I think it's a lot easier to move in the direction that Fred talked about if we manage to get together, not just on Zoom, but in person, whether we're not recording everything and so on. At least my experience, and I've tried very hard, as have many others, to stay in touch with my friends and colleagues in Hong Kong and in the mainland of China. But it's just hard, right? When you don't sort of really get together. The last thing, so Fred, I want to congratulate you. I thought that was, in terms of sort of directing us in a productive direction in a kind of optimistic way, even if, we don't get the job done tomorrow. It was really, really helpful, an inspiring intervention. The other thing, Victor, we talked about before, and you talked about, is the natural role in anything related to, talking with each other in education of this digital technology is a complement rather than a substitute. Now, in the pandemic, we had to use it as a substitute, but, I haven't met anybody who thinks it's a perfect substitute for the in-person version, but the hybrid version makes a lot of sense, right? So we just, you can't count on getting, the Fred Bergstons and James Folks and everybody to be able to be free, at the same time to show up at the same place. And so I think what I'm hoping we'll see in the future is the following. One, it's a joy to be here when Hong Kong's opening up. You can just feel the energy and kind of the release. So I think we'll have larger in-person sessions because people value it. And learn a lot from each other and feel the energy and the kind of motivation that goes with that. I think we should keep the hybrid form because of the, essentially expanding the size of the network. There's the analog in e-commerce is very striking, right? In the offline world, your average customer is 4 kilometers away, and in the online world, it's 1,000, right? It's just a bigger addressable market. And we're just in a different line of work, but we're doing the same thing. And the last thing I'll say is I think it's going to be, I don't know when it's going to happen, but Fred Hu made it clear that the Chinese economy is being suffocated by this zero COVID policy, and it will unsuffocate itself probably pretty quickly in multiple dimensions, youth unemployment and so on, when they lift these restrictions. But then I think, once that happens, we can go back to kind of the full version of of what AGI and a number of other institutions are trying to do. And I think it'll be easier to get together, make progress, talk to our friends, talk to the policymakers that we've gotten to know in China and the United States, depending on which way you're going. So I'm pretty optimistic. Now, if we get to the end of March and they haven't lifted the zero COVID things, then I guess I'm going to revise my opinion. But I do want to congratulate Heiwai and the team for putting this together. It's not easy. And I want to thank all the speakers for making this a very special occasion. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Victor, you want to say something? Okay, this is your time to unmute. But let me say one thing before Victor really concludes. I become really more optimistic, and this optimism is not coming from just my natural mental knee-jerk to the pessimism that we have heard that we got in the last few years. And I think I become more informed about where in the world that we should be optimistic about. I really think that countries and companies and people are really putting their acts together to push sustainable projects forward. Countries, including big ones, are coming together to harmonize standards so that they are collectively fighting climate risks. I think there have been quite a lot of discussions about how we can come up with multilateral standards so that digital economic transformation will bring positive impacts to poor countries, poor people, and small, medium enterprises. So these are the three areas that I think I become more optimistic about than 12 hours ago. But really back to you now, Victor.
Well, I'm not going to add another word. You guys have said it all. And just the only word I would say is thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you. See you next year.
Bye. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Nice to see you, Fred. Take care.
Yeah.
Nice to see you all.
Keep well, Fred.
Yep.
Nice to see you all. Great to see you, Victor.
Bye.